If Pacey George, Chair 2, do you know that 300 years ago, before men and women had the right to vote, both sexes, except royalty and their lackeys, were considered objects for many things, including slavery?
That's crazy.
Men were, yes, men enslaved other men, correct, yeah. That's the thing that happened.
Do you think, question though, do you think that men...
I love when people try to act like white women didn't indirectly benefit from slavery. They go, oh, it was just the evil white man. We had nothing to do with it. Not only did white women obviously indirectly benefit from slavery by being married to white men, but also we don't have exact numbers, but in America specifically, 15 to 30% of slave owners were white women. So it's like, no, it wasn't just men enslaving other men. Women also enslaved men too, especially when they had the law as an enforcement arm for them to do it.
Deserve either historical or current disadvantages because the perpetrators of their oppression shared their gender?
What
That's
are
a
the
good question.
current disadvantages of men? Can you explain them to me other than circumcision?
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, so I mean, if we're going to look
Circumcision.
at statistics, men are more likely to unalive themselves. They're more likely to be homeless. They're more likely to die on the job. They're more likely to be
Is that because
victims.
society is structured against you?
In some
The
ways,
laws
yes.
are
Hold
making
on.
you commit
Aren't you
yours-
a feminist? Wouldn't you argue that patriarchy also hurts men? So if it's the case that men live under a patriarchy, wouldn't said patriarchy also hurt them?
Okay, but what are the things that are hurting you? What
I
are the
just
things?
listed a-
No,
I
what are
just
the
listed a
what are
bunch.
the what are the laws? What are the economic situation that's making men themselves?
Their expectations.
That's crazy. There's
Hold
What
on.
are the laws? Well, there are direct laws that men have to register for selective service in order to have the right to vote. And women don't have that. They don't have that burden in society. If you look at laws that directly affect suicidality, when you talk about divorce laws, you talk about divorce court, men who lose half of their stuff because their wife decided that she wasn't happy enough one day and divorces them, their suicidality skyrockets. Have you ever seen those rates of men self-harming after divorce? They skyrocket because there are laws on the books that say that men have to give up half of their stuff, even if they didn't do anything wrong. Those are laws that affect men. Men lose their children in custody. Those are laws that affect men. Men get 60% more time for the same crimes and are more likely to get prison sentences, while women are more likely to get probation for the same crimes. Those are laws that affect men. When you look at affirmative action, women being hired in certain positions because those positions have to hire a certain amount of women, especially when it comes to public safety and they lower the standards for women to get involved. Those negatively affect men. Those directly affect men because men have to perform at a higher standard than the women, and those women who perform at a lower standard are getting hired over men that are performing at a higher standard. That negatively affects men. When you look at laws around consent, if me and a woman are both drunk and we end up sleeping with each other and she regrets it afterwards, she can come back and say that I sexually assaulted her, but we were both drunk. And I'm just looking at the laws. There are other things that affect men negatively, but if we're just focusing on laws, another huge one is domestic violence cases. When police officers have to go make an arrest because they get a call about domestic violence, almost 95% of the time they're going to take the man to jail even if they don't have any proof that he initiated the domestic violence. So if we're just talking about systems and laws that are sexist against men that affect their mental health, those are all of the laws that negatively affect men. Actually, I can't think of anything legally, a system put in place that negatively affects women. I can think of some negative expectations or social standards that may affect women, but men have way more social expectations that affect them too.
So hold on. If it was the case that the female unaliving rate was disproportionate and it was higher than men's, I think a lot of feminists would say this is evidence of sexism in society. But whenever, it's interesting, if a bad thing happens to a woman, it's because she's a woman. If a bad thing happens to a man, it's it's his fault.
you need statistics.
Like, it's not because there's nothing gender related, at least anything that negatively impacts man.
It's because
it's nothing to do with their gender.
It's because generally speaking, the people making the laws and with the money and the power to make laws are male.
Then shouldn't we be campaigning for women
Again,
to
though,
involved?
so wait, what? Okay.
You made the laws that hurt
I
you,
made the
right?
laws?
Exactly.
Men, other men made the laws that hurt men, right?
So that
there's
makes it
not a lot
okay.
of women in government.
Wait, so-
there's more, but there's
Wait,
not a
so hold
lot.
on.
Yeah.
If a group historically built a system, and I'm not even
Not
I don't even-
historically,
hold on.
currently.
Okay,
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
That means individual members today they can't point out how it's harmful towards them.
Sure, it's harmful, but what is this specific thing that's making themselves at a higher rate.
Wait, can you say like unalive or something like
Oh,
YouTube?
sorry,
words or
on-
whatever?
Does it
I'm
matter
Say
why?
unalive.
All right,
What's
sorry.
the
I never
specific-
said that before. Unalive, yeah.
No, hold on. Well, you asked me to give you ways in which men are disadvantaged in society or like how they're negatively impacted. So feminists would point to things that aren't like, because remember earlier you said, well, there's no laws or anything that negatively impact women. You said it's like the culture, right? Okay, cool. The culture is making men more likely to unalive themselves.
No, there are actual direct laws. Brian should know this. Brian, why are you not prepared for this? You can point out plenty of laws that negatively affect men. You could even just start with selective service. Anytime you're in this situation where women are trying to say that they have it harder than men, bring up the fact that women have reproductive rights and men don't have reproductive rights. Bring up family court and bring up the fact that men have to be willing to fight and die for the country and women in order to vote, and women don't have that expectation. Those are just three off the top that you should already know that are legally in place to negatively affect men and disproportionately affect men. So anytime you have these conversations with these types of women, because we are in the propaganda war and we are fighting against this type of stuff, have those three in the back of your mind.
So why can you cite to my culture, but I can't cite to the culture?
Okay, so what could you fix in culture that'll make men not unalive themselves as much?
This is not that, okay, that specific topic, I'm not an expert in like if you were to ask me about like how do we resolve homelessness, that's not like an area where I have expertise in, but I can descriptively point out what the issue is.
But
I don't necessarily have, I could probably think of prescriptions.
I mean, I think you're pointing out just a general, more economic reason why everything's worse, right? Things are bad economically for many people. That's why they're homeless. That's why, no, it has nothing to do with money? The reasons?
Yeah, that's related.
Okay, so
But you're
that's
just
not...
all over the place with...
No, but
the
how is
conversation
it
here.
something that is related
I
to
didn't know.
gender in terms of men?
Hold on. But so
This part
yeah, I know it's difficult. So
Sorry.
you're shifting the goalposts here. You asked me, okay, well, in what ways are men disadvantaged, or in what ways are men facing specifically gendered problems as it relates to men? And I was starting to list some for you because you doubted that it could even exist that men in today's society can suffer in a gendered way. And I'm pointing out to you ways in which men disproportionately suffer in the same way that feminists say, well, women disproportionately suffer in this way. So if it's valid for you to say women disproportionately suffer, I can also say men disproportionately suffer in this way too.
So what has created the system that makes you disproportionately suffer?
Well, you seem to
Feminism?
reject that there's patriarchy.
And yes, you could
Again, I'm
argue
saying-
you could argue that some of that is related to feminism. Women rallying in order to get no-fault divorce. Yes, that is negatively affects men, and it affects their suicidality after divorce. The fact that a woman with no reason can break up her family, especially because the man has contributed a lot financially and he'll never be able to recover from that, and he could get his children taken from him just because she's unhappy. Feminists were the ones that rallied for that to happen. So yes, you could argue to some degree that it has to do with feminism. It's funny because I don't think a lot of this has to do with real oppression. I think of a lot of it has to do with men giving women certain benefits because we recognize that they're fragile, and women not understanding that we're giving them the benefits because they're fragile and just throwing it back in your face and saying, well, men built these systems, so they're only oppressing other men because they love to oppress other men. No, men require other men to register for selective service because if we would send an army of women, we would get absolutely destroyed. Not only that, it's because we also want to protect women and children. By and large, most men want to do those things. So for most men, it's not really like we're being oppressed. The only time we bring up these things that disproportionately affect men are when we're talking to feminists who try to act like the whole world is only against women. It's like, no, everybody has their burdens. Men have burdens here, women have burdens there. Pick up your burden and move along and stop complaining. That's what it is. Sure, some women got slapped throughout history, but there were also 15-year-old boys dying in the trenches in World War II. Why don't you talk about that when you're talking about oppression throughout history? Those boys didn't want to go fight for those wars, but they did it anyway because that's what culturally, socially, morally and legally we expect it of them. So they took on their burden. They sit here and they throw it back in your face because they don't understand how harsh the world actually is. They're really just spoiled. They don't understand how harsh the world actually is, and they don't understand how they would not be able to biologically compete with men if they had to compete directly without all of these things that men put in place to protect them.
Here in the United States, it's not as real as it is in other places.
Hold on. Have I made a claim about the attribution of blame?
No, but
That's a great red herring. I appreciate that. I'm actually just looking at the ways in which men are disadvantaged, which is the
you're
precise
pointing out behavioral
question you asked
problems,
for.
not social.
Behavioral problems.
Yeah, men.
Wait. I
Women
love
are
this.
equally
Okay.
depressed. They just don't tend to follow through the same
Wait, I have a question for you. Do you think that, for example, when it comes to
That's actually true, though.
police brutality, police misconduct, incarceration rates, when it comes to African Americans, do you think that this is evidence of some sort of discrimination in the system?
That was a lot of things at once. I think racism is a real thing, and I think economic discrimination is a real thing.
but
So then you'd have to
you would
agree that
maybe
sexism
agree
is a
that
real thing.
It's
very simple.
Would you say that it's disproportionate the amount of black people that are in jail as compared to white people?
Yes, it's disproportionate. I think statistically.
Would you say that that's evidence of racism?
I mean, part of it, yeah, part of it. I think it's a lot of things, but part of it is racism.
So the
yeah.
disproportionality that exists between the incarceration rate between blacks and whites is actually orders of magnitude greater if you compare men to women. So then, because of this disproportion, would that be then evidence of sexism towards men as it relates to the criminal justice system?
It wouldn't be sexism.
Well, hold on. If I could point you to studies that show, for example, that men are more likely to get longer prison sentences, or
here
more
we go,
likely
Brian.
to be
He locking
convicted,
in now.
or more likely to
Starting to warm up a little bit.
for the same crime, same circumstances, they're more likely to receive a longer sentence or even get a prison sentence. Maybe the women get off with just probation or something like this, or have their more likely to have their charges dropped. That you would have to say that's evidence of some sort of sexism towards men.
The people who are doing the sentencing and writing the laws, are they men or women mainly?
How? Again,
Doesn't matter.
It matters. It matters who's writing the laws, right?
So if more women
If you
were in
created
government,
the system that oppresses you, that's on you, right? You created the system.
No, it's not, because the vast majority of men had no say and have no power.
Yeah, like, do you
so
agree
it's a
with
total red herring. But
The
other
vast
men-
majority, but I'm
Okay,
talking
so
about the
that's a
people in
cool.
power.
Answer my question. That's a separate topic. Who set up that system? Great. Is it evidence of sexism? Okay, can women be sexist towards other women?
There's a good question. There
Can
we
women
go.
be sexist?
Can women be sexist towards women?
Sure, yeah.
Can men be sexist towards men?
Can men be sexist towards men?
Right.
Depends on what kind of man they are. If
Okay,
they're
but
a
your point-
sexual man
Oh
or...
my God.
What is-
But so
I mean, these are very general questions. And
You can tell she's only made points on TikTok, and she's never actually debated anybody in person that has a view that's against hers, because she's just not even prepared for this either. At first, I thought Brian wasn't prepared. Now he's in the good place. He's asking the right questions, but you can tell she just has no experience with actually talking to people who disagree with her opinion on these topics.
me to give
but
one generalized answer.
You're trying to hand wave away my
I'm trying to be
criticism.
specific.
You're
about
trying
your
to hand
questions.
wave away the grievances that I'm bringing up here by saying, well, who set that system up? And
Well,
it's
you're
like,
saying it's
under your
sexism. It
world-
has
but-
to do with other things.
But
It has to
even
do with
under the
economic.
even under the feminist worldview, they argue that patriarchy also hurts men.
Sure.
So so
Okay.
even under your worldview, I
Yeah.
kind of have contentions with the patriarchy theory. But even under your worldview of the patriarchy's existence, it would also hurt men.
Yeah, for all those things that negatively, not only socially but legally affect men, if there is a patriarchy that's put into place to only benefit men, it's not really working very well.
I'm not arguing that men don't suffer. That's not my argument.
or because this country
But
was
so
like,
men didn't set anything up as a monolith either. Most men had no say as it relates to the laws. Let me ask you a question.
Just like
If
most
there were a
women
bunch of
didn't.
conservative women, which, I mean, perhaps the Supreme Court
You're
is going to go
posing
this way.
hypotheticals that aren't real.
Okay, well,
If
hold
you
on.
look at
That's
those,
the whole point of a hypothetical, dummy. I think it was Patrice O'Neill. He said it in the past, and it was just one of the points that he made that stuck with me. He said women can't understand hypotheticals. They always personalize things. No, this is this is the whole point. It's supposed to not be real.
look at the majority. Just
Hold
go
on,
look
hold
at
on, hold
who's
on.
in charge.
Are you
right?
pro-choice or pro-life?
Choice, yeah.
Okay, cool. If it happens to be the case that we lived in a matriarchy.
We don't.
But let's say we did. Here,
We never will.
it's fine. Okay. If we lived in a matriarchy,
Okay.
and this matriarchy
Yeah.
was anti-abortion, and I'm assuming since you're in favor of abortion,
You're inventing it. You're a great science
I'm-
fiction
hold on.
writer. We don't live in that reality.
oh wow,
We do live in a reality where one of the judges who voted to, against Roe v. Wade was a woman. So was she sexist against women? He could have asked that question.
hypotheticals are to test the logic. Great. So back to my question. If we lived in a matriarchy there was a female president and the Supreme Court, it was like 6 female.
That'd be great. That'd be amazing.
That'd be wonderful.
Yes.
And they outlawed abortion entirely. Would that then justify would you be okay with abortion being illegal?
Women wouldn't outlaw abortion.
Hold on, just to be clear,
Wait,
the
over half of
majority.
women
Hold on,
are
the
pro-life.
majority of pro-lifers, I think, are women.
Women, over 50%.
That's not true. The majority of
Okay,
women aren't pro.
well,
If
hold
it
on.
wasn't for men, we wouldn't
Fine.
have abortions
I'll
either.
even grant that it's not. Let's assume it's the case for the sake of the hypothetical.
Yes.
Would you then hand wave away women's complaints about the current state of affairs of the country not allowing abortions? Would you hand wave it away because it's a matriarchy or because women set that system up?
Again, you're making this way more complicated than it
I'm
has
not.
to
Just
be.
answer the question.
Your hypothetical doesn't make sense to me.
So
Your
okay.
hypothetical of women
Wait, so
being
you're saying
in charge
logically-
and outlawing
You're
the
saying
abortion.
logically you
Yeah.
couldn't comprehend, like is it
Women-
logically possible that there could be a majority of women
Sorry.
who are pro-life? Like it's logically possible that could be the case, right?
Groups tend to act in their own favor, right? It's not in women's favor to outlaw abortion.
Well, he's just saying that.
Wait, groups, and do you think, groups act? in their
Groups
own
tend to
favor?
act for themselves,
Wait,
right?
so the patriarchy that existed,
But that would be contradictory because men, for the most part, prioritize women and children in society. We have not only chivalry, but we have laws on the books. We have social standards and social expectations of men that predominantly prioritizes women and children. So I don't think that that's true, especially when it comes to sex. It might be true when it comes to race or when it comes to football teams or other things like that. But when it comes to sex, I don't think that that's true. I actually think that men do a lot of things. Majority of the things that men do is to prioritize women and children.
control.
I do think that.
Why did they grant women the right to vote?
Because of a lot of fighting on the behalf
But
of
hold on,
women.
if it's not in the interest of the patriarchy, why did the patriarchy grant women the right to vote?
Because
So
of
anyways-
World War One.
anyways,
Because
that's
of
great.
World War One, a lot of men were killed in World War One, and then women got the right to vote.
Amen.
Okay, that's incoherent.
That's stupid.
Back to
No,
my
it's
question. Why don't you engage in good faith with the hypothetical? If there was a matriarchy and the women in power, you know what?
That's
Wait,
not.
hold on.
It doesn't make sense.
Question. Does
yeah.
a matriarchy or a patriarchy have to be democratic?
have to be?
It doesn't, like, you would agree that a matriarchy or a patriarchy doesn't have to be democratic, like we've had patriarchies in history that were monarchies.
You're conflating democracy with feminism and other
No,
things.
no,
No, he
just
just-
answer the question. I'm trying to get to the point.
I think I'm just.
You lost me.
No, literally,
Okay.
what he's saying. You're saying that your problem is.
So
No.
disingenuous.
Oh my God.
She's
You
so
lost me.
disingenuous.
Is it logically possible? Like,
I think you lost them
And this,
too.
is, and this is what they do. Like when feminists are losing arguments, they just play the retard card. They just spam it. They start acting like they don't understand what you're saying. They start acting like they don't understand hypotheticals. All of a sudden, their college degree turns into like a 5th grade level education, and they can no longer be an adult about certain conversations. And it's because for her to answer these questions, she knows that she would have to concede the argument.
Because men make the rules. Your problem is men make the rules. He's saying if women make the rules, would it make a
We
difference?
don't,
That's
though.
it. Wait,
okay, but if they
asking
did,
hypothetically.
if if there was a matriarchy and this matriarchy was pro-life and prevented women entirely from getting abortions, would you be okay with the hand waving of women who lived within that matriarchy saying, I want to be able to get access to abortions? Would you be like, well, who set that system up?
Use a different example than abortion. I feel like she's like, well, women would never. I'm like, okay, if they leave.
I don't believe that everything
You got some Andrew Wilson rubbing off on Brian there.
women say and do is the correct thing. That's what you're saying.
That's not
to me.
answering my question.
No, you're saying that I would believe in abortion, in pro-life if a matriarchy was pro-life because everything women say and do is correct. I'm really trying to understand the question. This is conceptually above me.
When I've brought up male grievances, your retort, your red herring is to say, but who set that system up?
It's not a red herring.
It is a red herring.
Did women set up the laws that are making men unalive themselves?
Right, that does not contend with the actual argument that's being made.
So he's saying, what if they
it's a
did?
distraction from the conversation that's actually occurring. So it precisely is that. It is a red herring.
Again, just very simply. I believe everyone suffers equally, right? I'm not saying anyone suffers. Yes, I do, for many different reasons. There's many different reasons people suffer other than sexism. My only contention is that women, right, are not lesser than men. That's literally it.
Nobody ever said that.
That's literally it. Okay.
Literally nobody said that.
I agree
You're
with
a
you.
feminist. Congratulations.
No, not a feminist. Not a feminist.
Congratulations.
Oh my God. Okay, Ryu, sorry for the delay here. Thank you. We have chats coming in. Excuse me.
Ryu 2985 donated $200. I live in MN. My lawyer literally told me that trying to fight for custody of my son was a waste of time because she was most likely going to get custody. Why is that the case? When I chose to leave.
I hope you still fought for him.
I hope that's not directed to me. Is it directed to me again?
Hopefully not.
Well, it's a law that negatively affects men's mental health, and that's what you asked for. So you would have to argue with why is that the case? That's something that negatively affects men, that benefits women. They get custody of the children, and that's just the way the courts work. That's the way the cookie crumbles. 92% of all alimony is paid from men to women, and majority of child support is paid from men to women. So why is that the case? Why isn't it that automatically men and women are both given 50-50 custody because it took two to make the child? It's both of their child. Why isn't it automatically 50-50 custody?
Can I at least get an answer to the hypothetical? So really simply, let's say, okay, here.
I think they're suffering now. You're making women suffer, dude.
That's great. I'm going to try to frame it. I'm going to try to reframe it one more time, and hopefully I can get an answer. Otherwise, I'm going to just move it on, I guess.
Please.
Okay, so let's frame it like this.
Yeah.
You are pro-choice, and you're arguing with somebody who's pro-life. And in this hypothetical society that you live in, it's matriarchal. The president's a woman, the systems of government predominated by women. There's 7 of 9 of the justices on the Supreme Court are women. And there were laws passed completely outlawing abortion, and these laws were passed by women. And you're trying to say, well, it's really unfair that women don't have access to abortion. And I just, instead of actually contending with your argument for why or why not abortion should or should not be legal, I simply hand wave it away by saying, well, who set this system up? Maybe you women should look at yourselves.
When I say who set this system up, that's not a call to blame men. I'm saying, well, men should also have a problem with the laws they've set up, right?
It literally is.
We literally clarified that earlier, so that doesn't work.
If you
Men don't have a problem with the laws because we understand that we have a heavier burden. The only time men started to complain about the laws is when women started to say that men were oppressing them.
Currently against men, then you have the right to fight for whatever you think is a setup against you.
I agree with her there, though.
Right, but
You think the society is set up against men, is what you're arguing. Society is unfairly prejudiced towards men.
No, you asked for.
You asked for examples of ways in which men
And
are
you said homelessness and
Or
Can I say this?
On the live, goddamn, you're struggling with that one.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
there's a
not
whole
used
bunch.
to
There's a
euphemisms.
whole bunch.
Yeah.
Forced military conscription. There's all kinds of things.
There's no forced military conscription right now. There's only a selective service, not a draft.
But still, that's the same thing.
But men are
It
In
exists
America,
for men
there's
and not
no
women.
draft.
It doesn't matter. It exists for men and not women.
But you have to
Yeah,
sign up
that's
to draft and
still
vote.
that's still an injustice.
The selective service?
Yes, the selective service is an injustice.
Then they should also make women sign up for it, if that's what you
Right?
want.
They should, but they aren't.
Okay, I agree with
women wanna be
you. I agree
equal
with
and
you.
they
That should
People
be.
fight for that.
They should be signed up for
I mean, women are in the military. It's not like women
Yeah,
aren't
they
in the
can
military.
They can volunteer.
And so can men.
right.
We can both
But,
volunteer.
but the current laws on the books,
Yeah.
only men would be subject to forced military
Okay,
control.
I agree with you. I think that should change. Why is it?
See,
again,
and this is where the delusion sets into place. What's really happening here is she has a lack of empathy, so she's acting like she doesn't understand. And also what's happening is she's in such a safe place, in a safe space and time, she can be fat at a desk talking on a microphone that a man created. And instead of acknowledging her privileges in society, she's talking shit and she's saying, well, women should have to register for the draft. You're saying that because it's peacetime. Go ask the Ukraine. I don't think the women are begging for the right to register for the draft right now when they're in the war. Right? She's talking shit because she's an obese woman in peacetime, and society is built up to the point where she could talk like this. But if there was real war going on, women would not want to have to register for selective service. The issue is a lot of people in society generally just don't understand the horror of war because they don't know anything about history. And so because we're in this privileged time, she's sitting here talking shit as an obese woman sitting at a desk. Like, who are we kidding here? Either way, this video was titled "Brian Almost Loses It Debating Woke Feminists Who's Arguing in Bad Faith." I'll leave a link in the pinned comments and in the description down below. Let me know in the comments below if this video was a W or L, and give me the HBO special. That's a Help Brother Out special. Hit the like and the subscribe button for more content. Till next time.